Here we are on the outskirts of Kampala, the capital of Uganda. The building that you see behind me is the Namagongo Sanctuary. Here, homage is paid to 22 Catholic martyrs who gave their lives for the sake of the gospel. In this land, they are in fact unanimously considered to be the founders of the Ugandan Church. In fact, one of them, their leader Carlo Luanga, was burnt to death here. His testimony, together with that of his companions, has in one way or another not only given the word evangelization a meaning, but has also led us to understand how true the words of Pope Francis in his Evangelii Gaudium are. I mean, that missions start on the outskirts. We are quite a distance from Mother Europe. We are in the heart of sub-Saharan Africa. And right here, men and women who have given their lives for the kingdom and still do. Missio, the pastoral body of the Italian Episcopal Conference, which promotes not only the ad gentes perspective on a national scale, but also a communion-based approach with all the sister churches worldwide, has chosen the slogan Outskirts, the heart of the mission, for World Missionary Day and for the whole pastoral year 2014-2015. To understand exactly what it is all about, we have come here to Uganda, and we're going to take you to a remote region of this country in the heart of Africa, Karamoja, to meet those who live at the base of the story, those who have been totally forgotten. The Karimojon is a people that lives in the Karimoja area. They number about 1,200,000. They go and dig for gold.
We come early in the morning to dig. When we find something, we take it to the market. If we find something, then we can buy something to eat.
It became a habit for them to travel armed with AK-47 Kalashnikovs to steal their cattle. During the raids, the men were killed. The consequence, no more animals. So what options were the widows left with? To migrate.
I came to Kampala. Coming to Kampala, the police took 2 children. The major problem is that I don't have relatives in Karamoja. That is why I am here in Kampala.
Every day we sleep here, 35 people, adults with their children.
I sleep outside. I sleep around here.
No, è stato meno fortunato questo qua. Abbiamo ricevuto una lista
From our partners in Kampala, we received a list of the children that had been collected from a reform institute and taken to a refugee center in Kampala.
Centro di transito a Kampala. E tra questi bambini c'era anche il nome di Adome.
Adome was amongst these children. They are all Karimojan children. who were previously rounded up on the streets of Kampala by the Kampala city authorities because they were caught begging.
Perché mendicavano.
We are here in the village of Natirai, where we have brought Adome home.
My husband was in prison for 7 years. There was no food. There was no way of surviving. So I didn't have any other choice than to take my children and go to Kampala. So we went out onto the streets, begging, but the police caught us. They took my child away, and they brought me back here by truck. I went back looking for my child, but couldn't find him. Then I had to come home. We were beside ourselves. We thought that Adome was dead. Since 2007, we have collected 1,100 children, brought them home, and reunited them with family.
Reintegrati.
At last, he is at home with his father and mother.
The parents of Ademe are very grateful for us for bringing that child back, and they are giving us this chicken as a gift. This is the only gift they can afford as a family. Yeah. Thank you.
La cara a noi.
Va la cara, eh?
Poi bologno e perché. Come chi?
Nenda wali.
We are on top of Mbuja, a hill on the outskirts of Kampala. What you can see are some newly constructed areas, new districts of this city which continues to expand excessively. Just think that during the 80s, the population of the Ugandan capital was under 500,000, whilst today Kampala has almost 3 million inhabitants. This demonstrates a contradictory phenomenon which is characteristic of the African continent, in particular of sub-Saharan Africa. Hell and heaven. One side the less fortunate, who are the large majority of the population, those who find it difficult to meet ends meet, and on the other, the affluent, comfortable classes, the ruling class who enjoy the benefits of an increase in the gross national product. A gross national product in sharp increase, principally because of the use of raw materials, such as oil or the wealth of marble in the Karamoja area. Having said this, the missionary world is not standing by and doing nothing. There is no doubt that evangelists are called to safeguard the dignity of the human race, created in the image and likeness of God. And it is for this reason that today the religious missionary congregations have decided to get together and to set up a center which promotes the values of peace and justice, inspired by the teaching of Pope John Paul II in his Magistero.
This center was established by 6 different missionary fellowships. The center has 3 fundamental pillars or aims. One is the training of teachers, young leaders. Another is research. We conduct research into situations of poverty, situations where human rights are violated. Our third aim, to act as a voice and to ensure commitment.
We sit here today, Blessed Community had been one of the partners during our Lodge or the Search of Salam Condition.
We started like Bible study groups. Most of the time they could come. They want money, small money to take their kids to hospital. They want money for feeding.
It was funded by a woman looking at the need of the women in the community.
So I had to form this organization, do skill trainings for them so that they can earn a small earning.
What have you benefited from the blessed community?
I learned how to make new things.
During my work at John Paul II Justice and Peace Center as a research assistant, I was still sharing more about the research on mental health, the situation of the mentally ill.
And if I get this money, I have my little sister and brother to pay for them school.
I didn't have a very good perception of them. I am amongst those who would discriminate them in communities.
We also have a commitment with the police force.
Forze di polizia.
Are we going so much down here?
They react with too much force and too much violence.
Before a crime is committed, you are being informed by the community effectively?
Yes.
Initially, it was us that decided to work with them. Now, they approach us.
We ask the police officers of the police station what challenges they have. We ask the communities, and there were a number of challenges. And then we did this verbal judo training, which is, it's basically a communication skill for police officers, so how to approach.
The police are generally brothers and sisters who come from our villages.
This is an organization that has helped us in our work, in our line of duty. It taught us how to speak to the community, how to handle ourselves before the people, the language to use.
This is the positive message that the John Paul II Justice and Peace Center wants to give the Ugandan society.
Before, they would know that going to police, it is either you're going to see a suspect or you're going to be detained. But the communities didn't know that you can go to police to inquire and get knowledge. Police becomes police for people.
To show that the Christian values can permeate society and can become a real and tangible sign. This is our dream for the Ugandan society.
We know little or nothing about what happens in the south of the world, in particular on the outskirts. Our missionaries who work in the media sector realized this years ago and made it their aim to give a voice to those without a voice, to tell the so-called news not in the news. This is the mission of the editorial office where we find ourselves. The editorial of Leadership, a magazine, a monthly publication which aims to shake consciences, to tell facts and happenings about the community. An editorial that is inspired by the values of the kingdom: peace, justice, charity, and respect for the creation, as we will see.
I am a journalist with Leadership magazine. Today we have come here at Acholi quarters in Chireka.
I move out with the journalists and take the photos on the stories they're doing.
What about leading culture? What do you have for the leading culture?
In our editorial meeting, we decided to have a lady making beads, and that's why we came to visit. She's a widow. She lost her husband in 2013, January. She makes these beads for a living to look after her 5 children.
from the paper beads, somebody can actually be able to sell and earn something and be able to buy food at home or even probably pay school fees for a child.
I buy the material for these necklaces from the market in Nassau Road. A kilo of paper cost me 5,000 shillings.
We challenge families, we challenge the youth and even political leaders to see how much they reach out to neighborhood.
That money is not enough to sustain her and her 5 children because she has an older child who goes to school.
The magazine, as we see, is mainly hard copy. We are striving also to use the multimedia platform. We are trying to create this platform, especially we have gone to Facebook, preparing lines for the Twitter, YouTube, and things like that as an alternative to the hard copy.
Do you think the magazine is meeting the standard of your students, or there is something lacking?
On what to read, on what to consider. For example, things to do with sports betting, drug abuse, homosexuality, masturbation, corruption. You can find it all in the magazines.
I have come to the school to get interaction from the students, to find out how the magazine is benefiting them as youth.
The focus is mainly on the youth because they are the future.
And some of them are inspired by the magazine. Some say that the magazine is teaching them different cultures that they have not been knowing. What would you like to see in the magazine that is not there?
You begin from here reading. Some people get bored in the middle. But if you add some articles of entertainment, I think people will get.
If we want to improve, we have to get critics from people. People have to critique the magazine so we see where we are going wrong and improve.
In recent years in Italy, there has been much concern about the stream of migrants arriving in southern Europe from the African coast. A situation which involves not just Italy, but other European countries too. However, unfortunately on many occasions, the media has failed to explain why such migration occurs. A practice which is often conducted illegally. The truth is that very often in the world's suburbs, particularly in Africa, forgotten wars are being fought. Wars that don't make the headlines, or there are totalitarian regimes, such as is the case with Eritrea. However, we are in a slum, a shanty town in Kampala, because we want to illustrate the drama and sufferance of the Eritrean refugees. I mean Africans that are forced to leave their own country and are hosted in other African nations. Which just goes to show that charity doesn't have borders.
We left on foot during the night. At 5 o'clock in the morning, there was already daylight, so we had to stop and hide. We carried on like this for 2 days, and during this time had nothing to eat. At the border, they arrested us and detained us for 2 months. Once we were released, we went to the refugee camp, after which the 2 groups who were paid to get us from Asmara to Khartoum started arguing about our destination. We were held hostage for 3 weeks, whilst they discussed whether or not they should hand us over to the Bedouins, who would have sold us for the organ trade.
Here in Kampala, we are taking about 15,000 Eritrean refugees. This is a sample of just a few young people.
In
Eritrea, military service is compulsory. Initially it was for 18 months. Now for more than 10 or 12 years, or even endless. They earn $20 per month. Rather than staying and risking their lives, they escape to Ethiopia or to Sudan.
Luckily, things went well for us after that. They let us set off. There were 54 of us in a pickup truck for 24 hours without food or drink. Eventually, we reached the refugee camp at Shagarab. We stayed at Shagarab for 3 months, and thanks to friends and relatives that we met there, we eventually managed to get to Khartoum.
When I arrived in Juba, I rented a small piece of land and set up a small bar. I sold soft drinks and snacks. It was quite successful. I was earning well. All of a sudden, war broke out. There were dead all over the place. The soldiers were looking for Eritreans, because in Juba, the Eritreans were better off. So it was every man for himself. The border with Uganda was closed though. Later, the Ugandan government, wishing to save their own citizens, opened the border. So, luckily, we managed to mix in with them and saved our skins.
Like many other couples who want to start a family, we left. My wife came here first. Now, after 8 months, I have joined her.
Life is not just having something to eat. Life is above all hope.
Il nostro compito, anche a me come cappellano, cos'è il mio compito?
I, who am a chaplain, what is my role? It isn't just a question of giving practical or financial help, such as paying the rent for this house, where we put groups of youngsters. The problem is to give these young people a purpose to their lives, give life a meaning, and also to give them hope. Hope. Stand up, go to Nineveh, the big city, is the slogan of the Sacrafano National Conference on Missions. In reality, at the end of this spiritual and missionary journey that we have undertaken with you over the last few days, we have reached a big city, the capital of Uganda, Kampala. We have concentrated in particular on the question of slums. Ours is a huge responsibility. We are here in the seminary in Kampala, the Gaba National Seminary, also situated on the outskirts of the big city. It is here that the young seminarists, who will one day be priests, are prepared for their ecclesiastical service. It should be remembered that this setup, that is financed every year by the Pope's Italian missionary organization, represented in our country by the Foundation Missionary. However, I think that at the end of our journey, the vocational aspect is the most important to be considered. 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ inaugurated the mission, and on the outskirts, in Galilee. And that mission was achieved after Easter, thanks to Pentecost and the involvement of the apostles. Well, each of us is called to make sense of it, to announce and witness the good news. Jesus tells us in the Gospel to pray to the Lord of Harvest to send out workers. That means missionaries. A prayer which must not just be lived and interpreted as a vocational question, undoubtedly of great importance, but should also and above all be translated into a practical charity action. What is requested of us on World Missionary Day is to know how to break the bread which we find on our tables, aware that hunger and thirst for Christ amongst people is considerable, not just in the industrialized world, which is marked by a financial and anthropological crisis, but also on the geographical outskirts, where our missionaries are at work and ask us as believers not to just stand by and look on.
Finestra a guardare.